It is time for me to stop ignoring these floating islands. There are so many design possibilities for these new areas, and so far I have just been ignoring them. I've been doing dream snaps on them here and there, but today I want to take some time and really fully dedicate a build to this specific area. So the concept I'm trying out today is going to be on my Plaza island, and I'm going to be turning this into a botanical garden. So I want this to be very elegant. I would like lots of cherry blossoms everywhere, and to just make this feel really cozy and nice for spring. I am currently in the thick of winter, but we're getting into the Valentine's Day spirit here. I want to make a romantic garden getaway on this floating island so I can come up here and explore and enjoy the relaxing scenery. The great thing about decorating on these floating islands is that the possibilities are kind of endless. I recently made the switch from playing this game on Nintendo Switch to the Steam Deck. Having an area like this to decorate on the Switch is so cool because you can fill it up with as many items as you'd like. There are no item limits on the floating islands. You can also move villager homes to and from the floating islands. I do tend to see a lot of questions about that. You can also choose which villagers are allowed to visit your floating islands. So if you want to build a nice relaxing space like I have planned today, you can choose to ban certain villagers that maybe stress you out or don't really suit the vibe. You can see Mickey and Goofy will be wandering around for today's build because I recently did a Toontown build on my floating island and I forgot to kick them out before filming this video, but that's fine. They can enjoy my garden for now until I take it over and decide to enjoy it all for myself. Unfortunately, there is no water on the floating islands, which is something I hope that maybe we'll be able to one day add, like little ponds or rivers going throughout the floating islands would be so cool. Being able to add water to this build, aside from fountains, would have been so cool. Like imagine little ponds or something, and even maybe like some little duck decor we could put in the water. Please, Disney Dreamlight Valley, we need stuff like this. Those thoughts aside, let's get into transitioning into this build. We're doing things a little bit differently today as we transition the floating island into the botanical garden. I decided to film things a little bit differently just because I found that I can build and decorate so much quicker while playing on handheld mode. So I really just wanted to walk you through the finished process of this build and still show you plenty of inspiration. Speaking of inspiration, I found it really helpful for this build to go on Pinterest and just look up botanical gardens and really romantic spaces like this to get a feel for a good layout. So I ended up doing the well kind of at the base of the floating island, and then I put this large jasmine fountain in the middle, and then I put the gazebo in the back, and then I kind of just interlapped the path to weave all through these areas and make 4 main large garden spaces. It can be incredibly difficult to make things symmetrical in DDV for whatever reason. They just hate symmetry in this game, but I love it, especially for builds like this where I want it to feel very manicured and symmetrical. For this build, I found it really helpful to just go with the flow. I kind of just grabbed random decor items that I thought were pretty and tried to fill them into the spaces. I used a lot of these large hedges and then would just mix in the cherry blossom trees and these lovely pink bushes from Mythopia. And then basically once I found items that would fit the border of my path, I would kind of just do the same thing on the other side. So everything in the end ended up being quite symmetrical. Also, it's really helpful to start a build like this by making sure that the path is even. And I did this by centering the path around the fountain. I actually found that I needed to make some of the path like 5 tiles instead of 4, just because the fountain is actually a bit more rectangular than it is square. Again, the symmetry in this game, it just doesn't add up sometimes. Another thing that can help you with your spacing is to use a large item basically as a ruler. So I would use these large hedge pieces to kind of measure out how many spaces I needed to go on either side, or in this case, how many hedge lengths I needed to branch out the build to make it even. A garden type build like this is also a really great way for you to show off some unique sculptures and things like these Grecian pillars and little fountains I had. I also used the red panda statues from Turning Red. It's nice to have a place to display these items, and I think it's fun to walk along the pathways and just come across a random sculpture. This is how I've noticed a lot of these gardens are kind of set up. You never know what you're kind of gonna discover in these little pockets. So that's another fun thing to try to plan out along the way, is mixing in your little garden sculptures and ornaments to add personality throughout your build. Now, I know I said I took a lot of inspiration for this build from Pinterest, but there's something else about this garden that reminds me of the Princess Diaries. I think specifically the Princess Diaries 2 with the fountain scene. If you know, you know. I can't help but also imagine the Queen's intercom system yelling "get off the grass" in every language when I step on the grass in this garden too. Since we're on the topic of the Princess Diaries, I heard they're filming the third film sometime this year, and I think to celebrate, they should really add the sculpture with the string cheese finger. That would be iconic. Also, pear trees. Those would be all over this garden, let me tell you. It's also so lovely to just stroll around in this garden with my little parasol out. There's something about it. I'm finally starting to feel like the ruler of this kingdom, prancing around in my fancy royal gardens up here. And I really wish we had some more other parasol designs like this one. Like a white parasol would look so cute. A little pink one with like little swirls or buttons on it. Some lace umbrellas would be so adorable. Here is how this build is looking in the overhead. I decided to make this build more for looks rather than any kind of functional purpose, but you could definitely add in things like storage, different kinds of crafting tables, cooking stations, whatever you find helpful for your gameplay. I think this would make a really lovely flower storage setup, or even just a nice place to do dream snaps, which is probably what I will be using it for until I eventually destroy it. I did have other plans in mind for this floating island, but I might be a little bit too attached to this garden at this point. By the way, if you are wondering, the dress that I am wearing in this video is a Touch of Magic dress that I designed myself. I think that I will be wearing this up until Valentine's Day because hello, can you blame me? We're looking so cute over here with Miss Lil Peggy. I hope this inspires you to build something beautiful in your valley today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Toodles, goof!